Hello, and welcome to the day one, basically, of ADHD Empowerment Month. And I'm Stephanie. I'm the founder of ADHD Advocate. And I think this is our third year now that we've been celebrating ADHD, or what was ADHD Awareness Month. I'm really happy that it's actually changed this year. They've changed it to ADHD Empowerment Month, which we at the ADHD Advocate are really delighted about because we're all about empowering ADHDers, their families, organizations, and schools to understand and embrace ADHD. Also delighted that ADHD awareness is definitely growing. And so about last year, we've been kind of shifting the focus on the empowerment piece, on ADHD coaching in particular. And so what we're here to do this month is to keep raising awareness, not just of ADHD, but how ADHD coaching and training can help empower ADHDers, transform the lives of ADHDers. So we're really excited to do that this month. It's a very busy month. We're going to be going live every day in a very ADHD fashion. And this week, it's all themed. This week is ADHD Insights. And then next week, I think week 2, we're looking at academic success. Week 3, we're looking at ADHD, I think, in the workplace. I have to check because ADHD in mind, out of sight, out of mind. And week 4, we are doing family and friends, how to navigate family, friends, maintain friendships in the midst of our ADHD chaos can be challenging. So do join us for that. And then that all culminates on the 30th and 31st of October. We will be doing the UK's second ADHD coaching summit over the 30th and 31st. So do register for that. You can look at our website and you can basically book your place there. So we'll share the link with you later. But today we're going to be talking about the transformational power of ADHD coaching. And we have here 2 of our coaches from the ADHD Advocate. We've got Kim from Australia, who is speaking at the ungodly hour of 10 p.m.
That's right.
Dedication.
Good evening and good morning.
Exactly. And then we've got Sophie as well, who is speaking from England. Where are you again? Shoreditch? Somewhere.
No, Stratford around.
Yes. So basically, it's a bit of a story. Why we've got, and you'll see why, but why we've got Sophie to speak is that she was a client of ADHD coaching. She was my client. And she definitely had a transformational journey that she's going to share with us. She is now a coach with us as well. And so she is now able to do and empower others in the same way that she was empowered herself, which is, I think, a very common story for us ADHD coaches, isn't it? We end up being coaches after we've received this transformational gift.
Yeah, once we see it,
Yeah. So I guess, Kim, did you want to talk about, from your experience as an ADHD coach, what are the benefits? What do you find really moves the dial with ADHDers?
Thanks, Steph. Well, yes, there's a lot of benefits, and it's quite hard to narrow it down. But as I was thinking about today and the journey that I go on with a lot of my clients when I'm coaching them, the thing I think that comes to mind for me that I see unfold is a real change in self-awareness. So I thought I could talk a little bit about that today. Many people are quite familiar with coaching and aware that it is a growth orientated approach, and that working with a coach can deliver lots of practical tools and strategies for easing day-to-day life, especially living with ADHD. But one of the things that sits in the background of that is this shift of perspective, which comes through sort of a new awareness that grows when you work with a coach. And that can be really transformational. So one of my focuses when I work with clients is to support or work with them to build self-awareness through really uncovering who they really are. And that's important, especially when working with ADHD is. A lot of the clients I work with are fairly newly diagnosed, and when they come to coaching, they often feel pretty lost. They're relieved often with the diagnosis, but they're not sure what it means for them. And so coaching often is a bit of a journey of discovery and rediscovering who they really are. So when we talk about self-awareness and building self-awareness, part of what we're looking at doing is you know, bringing attention to any information gaps and really working with our clients to develop a really solid foundation of what is going on for them with ADHD, what their ADHD looks like, how it's interacting in their life, for the positives as well as some of the challenges. So education is a really key aspect of building self-awareness. Often what I find is when we talk to clients about their ADHD and look far more at the facts rather than what it's not, it creates a more compassionate approach for them with seeing what's going on around them and making sense of their life. So the first part of coaching really does look at bringing awareness to the diagnosis, bridging any gaps in knowledge, and that supports a more self-compassionate view. One of the other areas, I guess, is focusing on strengths, and that's a really important aspect of coaching and a pretty key foundation early on for when I work with clients, and I know for many other coaches as well. Really know yourself well, you need to consider what you do well and what comes naturally to you. So building awareness of that comes from understanding your strengths. When we talk about growth and looking forward, which is what coaching is all about, focusing on our strengths and being able to work with a client to help them see them in action is a really great way of dialing in a new perspective and opening up opportunities for leaning into those strengths or areas of life that they are, wanting to change or progress with.
Yeah, it's powerful. It's very powerful. And it's like you said, yeah, the awareness piece and ADCAR. So, and that's another thing we want to emphasize, the importance of certified coaching training, because there are a lot of coaches popping up. And ADHD we're a vulnerable bunch, and it's definitely important that any ADHD coach that you get support from is certified, because particularly the ICF style of certification and ADCAR, the ADCAR blend, it's all about not leading and about, being curious and getting the client, honoring that the client and the ADHD is the expert in their own life, and ADHDers are. But usually, as is often the case, they know what to do. They don't do what they know. Isn't that right, guys? Like it's really hard for us to do what we know. And it doesn't help when so many of us ADHDers, we love information. We love to learn. So, when a client comes to us, they know everything about ADHD. And yet, in terms of their day-to-day life, in terms of their goals, they haven't really progressed. And that's because, as you know, ADHDers, we can do things for others that we can't do for ourselves. And so coaching is a fantastic way to have a space to, as you said, get clear, but also not just about who you are, but about what it is you want. So getting clear on your heartfelt vision, your why, your purpose. Because as David Gewerk, founder of ADHD says, ADHD is a deficit of momentum. And ADHDers, when they've got that mission, that purpose, the momentum comes. Obviously, it's another thing trying to make that stay and keep going. And that's what us coaches as well try to help our ADHDers uncover and get that roadmap in place. The roadmap always helps. But without that ability to see through the ADHD lens, leverage the strength and kind of have that roadmap, it can be, and that why ADHDers can start falling down rabbit holes or running around in circles. Yeah, because if there's no point, there's no point. ADHD, as many of them, particularly see it in education, unfortunately, where for a lot of ADHDs in certain subjects, there might not be a point that the ADHD can see, and it's very hard for them to engage, even though they want to, because again, ADHD is we're hot-wired for authentic interest, but more about that later, because we're here to talk about coaching. So, Sophie, I wanted to bring you in and just ask you and get you to illustrate, what ADHD coaching did for you, because originally I was asked to come in and help you in the workplace. Is that right?
Yeah. So just to give a bit of background so that I can explain a bit more in the for the future. I've studied for something like 12 years engineering, and then joined 2 firms, and I met Stephanie during the period in which I was in my second firm where I was working, and I was struggling a lot. And although I knew quite a bit about ADHD, because I know I've had it since I was 16, I was back in Italy then, so the information about ADHD was really small. So all I found was things that I knew from my personal experience and by speaking with family that also had an ADHD. But what we always spoke about were the negative things and what were the difficulties, and just, mocking each other about it, rather than, trying to find a way that would help us. And so, going on in the years, although I knew about it, once you are in a working place, it's really hard, even if you are interested in what you're doing, or, you might find some interest in what you're doing. It's still hard to focus on how to solve your day-to-day problems with ADHD. So that's where Steph came in. And she tried to, first of all, she explained me a bit more about ADHD, because I thought I knew a lot, but as Kim was saying, there are some gaps that you don't know about, and experts will tell you more, because otherwise they wouldn't be experts.
And with your permission, of course, because
as a coach, of course, yeah, exactly. It's all, I could tell there was something missing for me, so that's where Steph was like, okay, I can give you extra information about it, so that you can understand better how come you're struggling so much and things like that. But so Steph helped me, or, as a coach, you helped me specifically to advocate more for myself and what my needs were. Because as you were saying, we do know what we need, but it's hard to, because of people pleasing, making sure that everyone that is around us likes us, because otherwise there's a whole background issue that is going to come up in place as ADHD is. It was hard to say, I can't do that. I need a support that suits my abilities, my capacities, and my ADHD.
That's it.
And so,
wasn't it? Like, that's exactly it. Because you can understand your ADHD, or a coach can help you understand it. But if you don't truly accept that you've got this need, a valid need for which it's, it needs to be met for you to access your work, if you don't truly accept it, you're not going to ask for people to change, give you something in a way that you can work with. So I thought that was great, because there was a lot of resistance, because again, like you said, the people pleasing, rejection sensitivity. Like, no, I've got to be a, good employee, does what they're told, doesn't make a nuisance of themselves, doesn't waste other people's time. And you had that was very difficult for you, actually.
I was working really, really long hours, which as a consequence made me even more tired. And, it was a loop in which I was falling further down. So, as Steph was saying, coaching helps to understand and accept more your needs, because you understand more, because ADHDers, when they see the bigger picture of, whatever the subject is, in this case for us, we're speaking about ADHD, but even in your workplace, once you know the bigger picture, it's much easier to then channel your focus in the detail. But jumping straight into details, it doesn't really work.
Not the context, and like other ADHDers, when they come to coaching, they've been told maybe they're slow processors, or they just don't get it, and people around them tend to be frustrated that it's taking so long to have to explain, to the ADHD that does need to see that bigger picture. But they make assumptions. But what they don't understand is that it's not that. Well, it is a slower process because you're taking so much more in. Like you're seeing, you're needing a much bigger picture in much more detail as well. It's deeper. It's a deeper kind of process.
Yeah.
It's so beneficial because, like we talked about, in the end, out of everyone, when other things come up, you will have already mapped out all that territory.
Yeah.
Like you are, but that sometimes never is realized.
Yeah, exactly. But we found even methods to deal with it. So, for example, I asked my manager to have a body double, so someone I could speak to once or twice a week, and I could speak aloud my thoughts, because mental processing for ADHD is much more complicated because of the amount of information, swirling around in our brains. Well, if it's spoken up, if you can hear your voice, then it's less difficult to get distracted. And so that helped a lot. And by the end of those meeting with that body double, I knew what I was supposed to do. While before I would just be going in around and round in loops without, because of so many ideas, without actually getting into the concrete part. But the main thing that for me changed the perspective towards myself, but also ADHD, was discovering my strengths and values, which is what Kim was speaking about, how important it is for ADHDers to, because we're not attention, it's not the word, interest driven. There you go, a bit of ADHD coming through there. If you don't follow your values, and so what your interest is, it's hard to keep yourself motivated. So with Stephanie, we went through, and I realized that my values weren't really aligned with what I was doing in engineering. But it made me move into coaching and helping others dealing with ADHD, because it's a hard situation nowadays. This world is more neurotypical than neurodiverse, and so it's hard to deal with it all. So it's important to have the support of people that know what they're speaking about.
The fact that
you have understanding.
The fact that you've been through it, you've been through the process yourself. You knew, the points that really resonated, that kind of helped you turn the corner. And that's obviously going to be invaluable in terms of your coaching. And Sophie's actually one of our academic success coaches. So she's facilitating the high school success program we run, which is for students with GCSEs and A levels. And look, I remember when I first got her to join this program, try to get her to become a coach and help the young ones, which is her mission. Her mission is she used to be a scout leader, and seeing her in action, like, it was beautiful to see you make that transition and see that transformation literally before my eyes. Like, you just come to life, because before in some of the sessions you could see you were struggling. You didn't have any motivation. It was a battle, but then to see you, particularly the end of the program picnic with the A-level students, and you're out there, playing, setting up the games and the picnic and getting them to blow on grass. And I'm like, what are we doing? Blowing on grass? They're going to be into this. I'm thinking, Sophie, they're not 5, but it was, here we go. Like, they loved
enjoyed it.
And that was you. And that's when I realized, wow, because I was like, as a coach, sometimes these kind of transformations that happen, like, oh, okay, that's a big one, let's but yeah, you're just in your element. So yeah, and thank you for sharing your story, because it very much illustrates how transformational it can be. And it's not easy. So kudos to Sophie for having that bravery. You can imagine her values are very strong. And you're now aligned. And how are you feeling, like, when you're coaching the young ones, when you're in that element? How does it feel compared to where you were before?
It's another thing. It's seeing the difference that it makes in the students, and coming back the next week saying, it worked, it's so much better, or coming back and say, actually this didn't quite work quite as expected, let's find, help me to find an alternative. And then the next time is like, oh yeah, it worked. And and see even in them the transformation. And even the feedback from the parents is really, really positive. They immediately say, I've seen a difference, or thank you for letting us share our concerns, or our thoughts with our kids as well, because we help them even do a bit of a communication and set up certain expectations on both sides, so that it's easier to manage either way, so that the students can ask the parents their needs, but then the parents don't get frustrated on the same time, because what are they asking me? I already do so much, so trying to create that balance, but seeing the results is, my heart is full.
Well, hey, can't ask for more than that, can we? From coaching benefit. And it's such a joy, and you give so much joy to these kids. It's and Sophie's doing a great job with Sarah. They're in another 5-week program at the moment. Another 5-week one's about to start in November, I believe, and that kind of will keep rolling all the way through the A levels and GCSEs. So definitely encourage through the exam. So definitely encourage, and we'll put on a link on LinkedIn how you sign up to this high school success program. Us ADHD is we are kind of better together, and the one thing about group coaching that is really beneficial compared to one-to-one is the acceptance piece tends to come quicker in a group setting. Don't you think, Kim? Because there's more
lonely.
Learning from others, sharing a sense of camaraderie and community that comes from being in a group with other like-minded people really, really speeds up that process of growth and awareness and new perspective. And it's a really empowering space to be coached.
That's why with the kids, some of them hadn't kind of met other ADHDers before, and when we were doing that session on the sensory sensitivities, and you can tell there's a lot of shame. Unfortunately, some ADHDers, a lot of shame in terms of their needs, like, oh gosh, the smell of that sandwich, or like hearing
the
someone
light.
saying,
the light that is in the room,
heat, turn the air conditioner on and freezing everyone else out. lot of guilt and shame, but
or
to be
writing with the same pen, which
Yes.
sounds absolutely mad, but if it is something that gets on your nerve, then it all sets up a process in your mind that is not helpful. So
Yeah.
It's against that acceptance piece, and
yeah,
being able to hear from someone else, oh, you find that really, you want to kill someone too when they do that. And it's like, oh my God, this is a thing. It's not just me. It's not just me being a whatever bad word that could be, but to go, oh, that's ADHD. That's something that can't help. And that's so validating. And that goes such a long way to accepting, to self-compassion, which is very much, the hallmark, I would say, of the ADHD coaching, is to be able to develop that in people, that self-acceptance and compassion, looking at everything through a filter of self-worth. And, that's why we are all about empowering our ADHDers to be able to see through the lens, leverage their strengths, lean into the body double strategy, and set a higher standard for themselves, because our standards, unfortunately, because of all the negative messaging, are woefully low and dangerously low. And we'll talk more about that in later sessions this month. But yeah, we're all about helping ADHDers kind of, want more, need more, expect more for themselves, because they deserve it. And we, ADHD Advocate, us ADHD coaches, certified ADHD coaches as well, we would love to help you transform your lives. So thank you, Kim and Sophie. Poor Kim. Kim, good night.
Yeah, good night.
Thank you.
Sleep well.
Hope you have a lovely sleep, and thanks for joining us. And so tomorrow we will be speaking about, I think we've got, let's see, I think Lara, one of our other coaches, will be doing the importance of nutrition and exercise. So do tune into that. And then later this week, we've got Roberta doing self-identity and diagnosis, which will be very interesting. And then I'm doing a piece on AI for ADHDers with a special speaker in the AI space. And for me personally, I kind of think AI is the ultimate body double. So do tune into that one. Yeah. Keep an open mind, guys, because I know a lot of us ADHDers, nope, nothing, don't want to know about AI. No.
And also getting help from others.
Yes.
When you don't know about coaching, it's like, no, don't want to. I can do it on my own. I need to do it on my own. But it's not.
Yeah, no, guys, we don't like that. And that's another thing that we try to do, is help you lean into interdependence. None of this independent stuff, right? Lean into interdependence, overcome that RSD in order to get, what it is we need, right? We are better with others. We're better doing for others. So body double. So do join us. If you want to know more about ADHD coaching as well, I'll put a link. I was in a podcast, You're Wrong About ADHD, with the Classic FM presenters, which is very interesting. And they did a bonus episode around, Katie wasn't very sure about how she'd be able to open up to a coach. It was have a listen to the bonus. They did a bonus podcast around, but I'm sharing all these intimate things, like, going to be judged. And there was another fear around having to confront certain things about yourself and the way you do things. Us ADHDers, right? A lot of us are very good at being fine, and everything's fine. And avoid. Yeah. So, completely understand those fears and those limiting beliefs. But again, that's what ADHD coaching is for, to create that safe space, because it's a safe, non-judgmental space.
Absolutely.
For that journey of self-discovery. And it's a delight when we partner with you. It's the most beautiful process. Anyone that's been coached, hopefully would agree. So yeah, do have a listen to that podcast. I'll put that in the link. But otherwise, thank you for joining us, and we will see you guys tomorrow. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.